well, it's on. I can never remember all the platforms. There's
so
TikTok,
many.
and Instagram, and there's Facebook and LinkedIn and like 3 others.
Yeah.
What are the 3 others?
Grinder. No. There's so many.
No, that's for my other life.
There's.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
X, right, which used to be Twitter,
Yeah,
formerly Twitter, now known as
everybody
X.
calls it the whole name.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's that, and
yeah, you can't say X or Twitter now. You have to say X, formerly known as Twitter.
I don't want to.
It's like a whole sentence every time I bring it up.
Well, I don't have much else to do, so I can just make I can do the long one.
Yeah,
I can afford it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, listen, I wish I was less dressed. It's just very cold, you know.
Well, no, I'm glad you're well dressed. Actually.
I'm decent anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're
you
welcome.
Actually took the cap.
You're welcome.
All right, so
you can have it.
No, that's okay. Well, all right, here.
Well, no.
Give me the goddamn cap. Jesus. I watched a couple of your, not all the way through. But
I'm sure you couldn't make it all the way through.
Well, I got to the guy opening the zip case for the beer, and there were 3 of you, and I couldn't figure out who was who. And I think it was your face that was framed in a fake TV in the corner.
Yep.
And you were talking about the skydiver, the woman, and you thought that she was really nice looking, really hot or whatever. But then in her suit, her flight suit, you actually still thought she looked like a guy, but you were still turned on. My kind of people.
That's funny.
It was the Power Ranger thing.
Oh, the Power. Okay.
It was the person in the Power Ranger suit.
Okay.
No, I thought it was a female skydiver.
Well, it's the same episode we talked about. Okay. The way our ADHD brains work is we hop from subject to subject every nanosecond.
I found my people. I am so ADHD. I can't finish. I start 3 sentences, finish 1. I always ask somebody in the audience, that's you guys, to keep track of wherever I left off so that we can get back.
Someone around here pay attention to where I'm going.
Please. I always thought if I did stand-up comic, whatever, fuck it, make it make sense.
No,
that I'd pick somebody named Jim in the audience, and I'd say, could you keep track of me, Jim? And then every time Jim, what was I saying?
Jim, where were we? The problem with Mike and I is neither one of us can remember, so we often are just like,
where were we?
What was it?
Where did we start?
And then it's just a dead stop.
That works too. All
right.
The cap is here. It won't be there for long.
Yeah.
All right. What many things do you want to know about me?
Everything.
And if you're going to rush this just because you're
I'm not.
It's not my problem.
I am not. And I appreciate Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'd like to know a lot about you. Did you really live in Alaska?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, my dad was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and so he was stationed in Elmendorf at that particular point.
Elmendorf sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings.
A little bit.
It
that
does.
Sounds
you're
like
right. You're right.
Up.
No, I did not make that up. We were stationed there, but my dad.
Mike, fact check that.
Go ahead, check it out. Elmendorf. It's phonetic. You can't not find it. But my dad had itchy feet, despite they've moved 54 times. I've only moved 28 times in my life. Only. But every time my dad got stationed at a new place, which for a long time was just every 11 months,
damn.
He would still want to move. We started out in Alaska in a Quonset hut.
Were you born in Alaska?
No. I was not. I was born in Iowa. Isn't that exciting?
Oh, wow, yes.
I had to go to Alaska just to make my resume complete. But no, and so he had itchy feet, so we went to a Quonset hut, then we went to an apartment, then
when you say what is it, the first thing?
A Quonset hut? You don't know? Oh.
Quonset?
Quonset? Mm-mm. You can look this up.
Quansit?
Quonset.
Damn, I wasn't even close.
No, you were actually. The vowels are tricky, you know.
They are tricky.
But it's a rounded ground to
like
ground.
A dome?
No, it was metal.
Okay.
It was all metal.
Really?
Which I thought was strange. Being I was little. I didn't think anything was strange. Being little was strange. Yeah. But so then, we lived 3 different. Then we finally moved on base, and then we left and went to Texas. So all the cold weather gear had to go.
I mean, from Alaska to Texas is a very different climate-wise.
Yeah, I can give you that name. It's Reese Air Force Base. If you're the
That's what a Quonset looks like, by the way. If you wanted to get.
Oh wow, okay.
yeah, all right. I know you're excited.
Yeah, I mean, I've never lived in one. That's very interesting to me. I've never even been to Alaska.
Oh, well, I'd like to go back. My brother and I had always vowed we would hit all the high spots that we lived in when we were kids, but that didn't happen. So, yeah.
Every 11 months is a lot, and you're saying that he would want to go in between the 11 months?
Oh, yeah, he had itchy feet, and it was like we hardly packed and unpacked.
Just keep it in the suitcase.
Well, most of the time the stuff military movers, it wouldn't even catch up to us.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, we'd say, where was the so-and-so? Oh, I think we last saw that in, XYZ, whatever. So.
And it's somewhere in transit.
Yeah, always. And a lot of it didn't ever reach us because I thought the moving men all went, this looks good. This would be nice. My mother was a painter, and she did a self-portrait, and somebody stole the self-portrait, and we always thought, why? Why would somebody do that?
Maybe don't even ask.
That's true. Yeah, there's a lot of things you just don't ask.
There's a lot of weird people out here.
Yes, there are. Really? Really?
There's 3 in this room, at least.
I think so. Am I
I
fooling with the sound by doing that?
Only when you do it when you're talking. It does make a noise that I edited out, so if you can,
if
try
you
to
do
adjust
it in between talking,
yeah,
and now you can talk.
Yeah, if possible.
But if you do it while you're
do what you
talking,
do.
it's tougher. But it's fine.
Well, I wouldn't want you to be lazy and
Yeah,
and grow up wrong.
Keep him active. Keep him active. How does school work? If you're moving every 11 months, did you go to school?
I did go to school. I did go to school. I loved moving. Because I never made any friends. I don't have any social skills. You may have noticed. But my brother hated it because he was older.
Is this the 2 of you?
Yeah,
siblings. He's older.
Yeah, he was 8 years older than I, and he hated moving because he was old enough to make friends. And I was like, and so we were moving again, yay! And he grew up and joined the Navy and moved all the time, which I thought was strange. I, who loved it, grew up and stayed in Maryland for a long time, and I'm still here.
It's interesting how things in our childhood can manifest differently, even among siblings.
Well, yeah.
Some trauma. Like I think about trauma. Sometimes trauma will affect the children so differently.
Oh, that's
Same
true.
Trauma, because trauma is how your body reacts to it, not
well,
what happens.
Exactly, and it's who you kill afterwards.
Yeah, where you hide the body.
Exactly. I'm not telling.
You can't.
What? Well, that looks like a camera.
Yeah, these are cameras. These are cameras.
Oh, I meant to put my phone is buzzing, and I meant to put it on airport or airplane, whatever.
Same difference.
It's okay. You can buzz.
Well, I don't like it because it's annoying. It interrupts me, and we know what happens when I get interrupted. Squirrel. Squirrel. Yeah. I thought you started to say square one. I was going to say, yeah, I'm back to square one. You're absolutely
back to squirrel
right.
one.
Squirrel one. That's funny.
Squirrel one episode.
Squirrel
name.
1 to squirrel 2. My dad, after he retired, he got a job as a. He only got it. He only applied for it as a detective because they offered a free computer. And then he called me up and he said, they're teaching me how to tail people. And I said, okay, good. I'm not sure what the response is to that, except I'm glad. And he called me back up later and he said, it was very strange. He said, there were 4 of us and everybody was given walkie-talkie 1, walkie-talkie 2, walkie-talkie 3. He said, mine was walkie-talkie 5. And I kept asking, he'd key the mic and say, who's walkie-talkie 4? That was what consumed him the whole time. And I could just see him doing that. And he said, it was his turn, walkie-talkie 5. You're supposed to tail this person that goes by. Well, just then an old man. Now, my dad was in his 70s, and an old man in a walker goes across in front of him, and he's like, walkie-talkie 5 to whatever. I don't know why they didn't do something shorter than the whole thing of walkie-talkie 5, but I guess they were all old people and they had to make sure they knew what they were holding. But this guy was walking across and he lost the guy he was tailing because an older man was going across. And
he tailed him?
Yeah. No, he didn't tail him, but I just thought, what are the odds? I don't know where my settings are anymore. I can't multitask.
Throw it as far as you can.
Well, just talk quietly among yourself for a
Yeah,
minute while I sign
Mike,
in.
what's going on? You still hate life?
Nah, man.
Nah, I never did.
Yeah, I never hated life. I just hate aspects of life. You know,
Right,
you know,
right.
The stuff you can't change.
The 95%.
The people stuff. It's mostly people based, I feel like. And
There's
just,
a lot of them, though.
Or maybe not. Maybe not. It's like the luck of the draw thing. Like, you could just get, I don't know, deformities. You could be in like a
Oh, it's a complete crapshoot.
worse.
It's a complete
Yeah,
crapshoot.
man. And like for me to be in such a good situation and not be doing more with it
Interesting.
makes me feel like a piece of shit.
I think that's actually a pretty well articulated. You know, I get that, and it's interesting how like where we're born, whether we like to admit it or not, they've done studies where it's like, okay, you're a gender, ethnicity, income, area. I can probably with decent accuracy tell you your views, like your political view. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like certain views.
Yeah.
It's like you'd like to think that we've done all this hard thinking for ourselves, and yes, we have, right? Sure, but they say that like you can just it's just luck of the draw. It's all random.
Well, if you're antisocial, so you're not absorbing your social norms, and your parents are apolitical and they're too busy being nuts, that and they're not communicating with you their beliefs, so you're not inheriting any beliefs. You get out in the world and people go, so what are you? And I go, what do you mean, what am I?
Mayo.
I'm a female gender, whatever. What do you want to know? So yeah, that's true for people who aren't schizo. That move a lot and didn't inherit viewpoints.
Yeah, I don't think that I share the view. I know I don't share like a lot of viewpoints with my parents. My dad's dead. I could probably share some of his, but I don't. I think that I don't know how much it affects me. It's one of those things you just can't know, because I'm born and raised here, and if I were born and raised in say India, I'm sure I would be a very different person, as much as I'd like to think I would.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got, now my uncle was with the State Department, so my cousin.
What does that even mean? Sorry to stop you. What is the State Department?
He was a diplomat. He was a junior diplomat.
What the hell even is a diplomat, I've heard that word my whole life, and I'm just like, fancy. To me, I think of diplomatic immunity, which I don't know what it means, and I just think this person can't be arrested.
That's what diplomatic
is
immunity.
It really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then how the hell do I become a diplomat, Mayo? I don't want to be arrested.
I don't think that's going to work for you.
Damn it.
I don't think they're going to vet you.
You see my resume.
Yeah, I can tell the resume.
She said it's oozing off of you. Yeah, there's a stench to it.
I can smell it. No, but they went to school in Argentina. They went to school in India.
Wow.
And so, I turned you off.
Well, at least it's not vibrating. You beat one battle.
Well, I put it on airplane mode, so that shouldn't happen, right?
Maybe an airplane's calling.
Shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not fully on. I don't really know what airplane mode even is.
But like,
an airplane.
Supposed to work.
Shall we enact an airplane for him?
You have to. Yeah. So a lot of moving young. Not making friends. I guess you don't have time. When did you settle? Did you guys ever settle?
Finally, but then my dad decided to sell cars, and that apparently, and then he decided to he ran a couple of the local airports. He ran the Frederick Airport for 20 years, and then he ran the Montgomery County Airport, and then he, but being who he was, he couldn't stay any place for a long time.
Right. He just had to keep going.
Right. So we moved, even though he worked at the airport for 20 years, we moved 3 different times.
Right.
It was always the number 3.
Yeah.
Not that was a goal. It's just how it turns out.
Yeah.
And, it was okay. It made me, I don't know what it made me. Nutso? I don't know. It made me not. Now, I'm very thing-oriented. I have lots of possessions.
Interesting.
And I don't want anybody. My brother and I were the same way. Don't touch my shit.
Yeah.
Don't touch. And of course, being 8 years younger than him, He'd go to school and I'd go.
Oh, you're touching everything. I put my nuts in your drum sack. Yeah, it's a very
and he'd know
stepbrother
it.
situation.
He'd know it, and he'd come screaming into my room. You touched my stuff. No, I didn't. I was a liar. I touched everything. So, but I didn't move it. I was smart enough.
Yeah.
But whatever he had, probably had a, camera or something. I don't know.
He could sense it.
Yeah, he could smell the.
But
dirty
it's not
kid in
about
there.
what happened. It's about what he could prove in a court of law. And no cameras, no face, no case.
Yeah, well, I was not smart enough to come back with a legal answer.
True.
I was.
You don't want to hit him with litigation at 8 years old.
No, litigation, no. Although it's funny because my son gave me a hard time when he was little, and I would not let him pedal across Baltimore City to the other side for a job. I was so mean and so hateful. That was so wrong of me.
Terrible mother.
A terrible mother.
Yeah.
And he came to me and he said, I am going to go to work there. And I said, no, actually, you're not. You have no way of getting there. I have a bicycle. I said, it will take you longer to get there. I did all the reasoning stuff.
The logical.
Yeah, and that didn't work because he was
Never
a kid.
does.
And then he said, I will sue you. And that was a new one. And I said, really? Well, I'll tell you what. I said, you gather your facts together. And you think linearly enough to present your case. You find the lawyer, you present your case, I'll pay for it. And he went, it was like all the air went out. It was like, that wasn't what he expected at all.
Yeah. He said, go ahead. I'll see you in court, buddy.
and I'll pay for it. Not only that, I mean, he'd have a free ride if he could have done it. And that was fun. It was one of the few battles I won.
How many kids do you have?
Only one. I couldn't do more than one.
Yeah.
No, that was. I was not cut out to be a mother.
No?
No. That was wrong of me.
No.
But he turned out well. So I'm.
In spite of you.
I beg your pardon. You don't know me that well.
Well, just from what you're saying. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I will claim being a good mother. I always said I was a bad mother, and he kept saying, "Stop saying that." I said, "Okay." Okay.
Well, they argue that, I've heard someone say that, like, bad moms don't ever stop to think I'm a bad mom. Just being thoughtful enough to say,
right,
like,
introspective
enough to analyze yourself and go, like, I could be doing better, because it's like, duh, we could all do better, So I would, venture to say that you're not the worst mom in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have cost him.
It hurt. A genuine compliment hurt. No, I like compliments. They're good. So yeah, and then you started writing?
I started writing at age 12, and I wrote my first novel.
So did you journal prior, or like do anything like prior writing?
No, I read everything I could get my hands on.
I was going to ask that too.
And I owned all the Hardy Boys books. Never mind that namby-pamby Nancy Drew shit. No. The Hardy Boys, because they were sexy.
The only Hardy Boys I know are in, like, because they were sexy?
Oh, they were very sexy.
Who the hell are the Hardy Boys? I know them from wrestling, I think.
No,
the Hardy Brothers?
It was like a
from
book.
wrestling.
It was a book series, basically.
Oh, you know it?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay.
I've never read any of them.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Mike's like, I read them because they were hot, too.
Our generation was Goosebumps, so I guess it was like the Goosebumps before. I don't know. That was for horror, but... Well, they're mysteries, right?
Well, I'm only 3 times your age. Of course it's going to be different, but yeah. So, Hardy Boys, and yeah, they were sexy because I was 12,
Sure.
Hormones were starting.
Yeah.
And I read, my mother, I was always home with my mother, and so she got tired of me and went out and opened the shed door. We had moved again, and opened up the trunk, the steamer trunk, and it was filled with first edition 1898 books, all the Louisa May Alcotts. That won't mean a thing to you. A first edition of Gone with the Wind, all kinds of humor from the 1920s. It was not funny. She said, "Here, go to it and leave me alone." Basically, that was her whole. Her mothering approach was, leave me alone.
Here's a bunch of words. Go through that.
Yeah, do what you want with it. Just
she gives Mayo a bunch of dictionaries. She's just like, here.
One of my first presents was a dictionary.
Right? Like, that's the first pressing of a book, the first edition.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like, if you're a collector, that's what you collect, right? So
I still have some of those.
They're probably worth a bunch of money. Some of them.
Well, I don't. That's going to be my son's problem.
Fair, yeah.
I'm not selling nothing because they're my possessions.
Yeah, when anyone touching your shit.
No,
we
I
already
don't want
went
anybody,
over that.
No, they're all mine. That's mine, my stuff. So, yeah.
So Hardy Boys were fiction?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were mysteries.
Okay, so yeah, sure, they were. Okay.
And so I inserted all the sexual stuff in there.
In your 12-year-old book?
No, my 12-year-old book was actually based on a Western that was very popular on for many, many years, even before I started.
Based on an already existing thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was Wagon Train. And if you have any Western, that still
Wagon
runs.
Train sounds kind of kinky. I don't know what.
Really?
In a way.
Now I want to interview you. With
In a
Wagon
way.
Train, there must be slang I don't know.
Yeah. So it was that. Okay, interesting. So it was about. It's like fan fiction, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's what is exactly what it was.
Because I didn't know.
In fact, in my blog on my website, the very first thing in my bio is I invented fan fiction. I did. So there. And I'll go to the mat with anybody that says I didn't.
The website, which you can check out in the description of the video.
Thank you. Now you're going to act like a real web host.
Yeah, like 5 seconds an episode.
Okay, I was going
I
to say,
can
don't do that again.
manage.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I wrote myself in as a character, and then I was embarrassed that somebody might find it
With your name?
with my name. So I went through everything and very subtly scratched out my name everywhere. And it was a 1,200-page novel, handwritten
Whoa.
in college.
Your mom
rule-
was real sick of you. Your mom's like, add more. Add more.
right. Go to your room and
Yeah,
write some.
Yeah.
Actually, I was very upset. She gets credit for starting me down the real road because I finished Gone with the Wind, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but Rhett leaves her at the very end. And
It's about a horse or something? No,
Eh.
Black Beauty. I'm mixing up. I don't know what Gone with the Wind is. I'm sorry. I don't know how I made that. I don't know how I conflated the two, but I don't know what Gone with the Wind is. A love story.
I am definitely I want to have my own, time to ask questions because you were strange. No.
I'm just stupid.
It was a famous movie, and it was a love affair, and it was the burning of Atlanta, and all during the Civil War, and blah blah blah. And at the end, I mean, she was a bitch. She was a total bitch. I'd have left her, but not at the age of 12. But Rhett was the hero, if
The
you will.
heartthrob.
Yeah, the heartthrob. And at the end, in fact, you may have heard the famous line from the end of the movie. Well, there's two. He said, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." And that was it for him, and for her.
Damn, that's a bar. Let's give it credit. Good for him. Go King. Go off, King.
So she's draped over the long sweeping stairs, crying, and she looks up at the camera, and I'm at the edge of my seat. I'd never seen the movie, and this was as an adult when the movie came back around. And I'm like spellbound because it was the book come to life. And she looks up at the camera and goes, "I'll think about it tomorrow. After all, tomorrow is another day." And I went, because I thought, what a corny ass line in a great movie. But anyway, when I was a kid and read that, when he left her, I was so pissed. I went tearing down to my mother. I was in tears. I said,
Really?
Yeah. I said, he left her. Why? No, you made me read that book. No. And she was like, eh. And she said, "So write your own and make it end the way you want." And I went, ding. And from then on.
Did she say it legitimately or like flippantly? Do you think she was serious in that suggestion?
We won't talk about my mother.
Fair.
I
Okay.
have no idea.
Oh, right.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it was a seed that was planted and immediately hit fertile ground.
That's
I was-
incredible how that works,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Think
Oh.
about if that interaction doesn't happen, who knows? That's so interesting to
She
me.
purposely gave me Gone with the Wind, knowing my sensibilities would be offended.
I love how affected you were by the book. That says that you're really in it. Like you're,
all the
you're-
books were.
That's
it
awesome.
was.
You
they
can get
were
lost in them.
always, you dream in color, you read in color, you miss the characters when they're done. I do that when I'm writing. When the
wow.
story is done, I knew someone who's very well known, but she will remain nameless because I'm not here to promote her.
We're not name dropping.
We will if it's a guy, and I like it. But no, she said that she wept at the end. All of her books, and I thought, oh come on, don't be corny. but that was only for her. It's not corny when I do it. You know, I don't weep over my own characters. I've been known to get emotionally hooked on people, and it took me 30 years to write this book. We haven't gotten to my book, but I'm going to tell you about my book.
I can't wait.
Okay. Oh, you're going to let me just do the lead in?
Well, I did. Well, yeah, I don't know how to lead anything in. I would just sit here and talk about like whatever retarded shit I'm talking about the whole time.
Okay, cool.
But,
well, then here's what I'm going to tell you about my book.
Well, can I interrupt you?
Oh, absolutely.
Squirrel 1?
You are the host.
Squirrel 1, Squirrel 2. Can I please interrupt?
Yes, please.
I'm excited. I didn't look any of it up specifically.
I know you told me not to tell you anything.
Yeah. I'm very interested because he was like, "So what kind of book is it?" I'm like, "Oh, maybe it's like a second
Bible."
Bible."
My name, frankly. He was like, "Don't tell me anything." Okay.
Yeah, we spoke on the phone, and I'm like, "She's like, what would you like to know ahead of time?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'd like to meet you."
Well, and that told me I was going to say, "Can I have your questions ahead of time?" You know, so I can prep.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
And when you told me that, I thought he's not going to have any questions. He's not the one. He's fly by the seat of his pants. Well,
but I will have questions naturally that come up organically.
Right, but organic. I knew that word was going to come up out of your mouth. Okay, that's fine. And I rolled with it. I did.
Yeah,
I didn't stress. I worked in the yard all day today so that I wouldn't have any nerves. I would be too tired.
There you go.
And I think that worked.
Wear the system out a bit.
That's right. So I couldn't think about what was going to, because I thought if I make an ass of myself, I will tell no one about this. Podcast, it's canceled. Mm-mm.
I don't know that you could make an ass out of yourself.
Yeah, I don't think you could.
You seem pretty well composed.
Really?
Yeah.
People's impression of me when I worked for, actually, I wrote 2 books a long time ago, 35 years ago. They were published traditionally. In other words, I had to get an agent. He had to sell the books. And I have a funny story. Remind me where I am. That's your job.
Jim.
Jim. Oh, now you've done it. What's his name?
Jim.
Mike.
No, it's not Jim. Stop it. Mike. Thank you.
Jim's fine, though.
It does not.
He's like, whatever you do. Yeah.
It does not help me. Don't confuse the old broad. But no, I sold those 2 books. And after the first one, see, my theory was the best fiction is it's got truth in it. It's you make up the events. Yeah, but you cannot, unless you're writing science fiction, and then you have to make a whole new world, and I'm not capable of that. But so the very first, and I was writing romances, historical romances, because I love history and I love the research.
Probably from the old readings, they
weren't historical, but my dad was a big historian,
Okay.
so he had books, history books, and so I just liked old shit. That's basically what it was. And we were always moving, and we always moved into old houses, and I liked finding out about the houses.
Right.
And there was an old graveyard in the back, up in the woods behind a house that we lived in, and that was so cool.
That is cool.
So, and nobody else knew about it until I told one of the teenagers in my high school class, and he got drunk with some of his friends and went up and threw all the headstones over the cliff.
Dickhead.
Yeah, totally. I was so pissed. Now, where was I?
That's probably where you got haunted.
I'm not haunted.
Okay. All right. I don't want you to make any accusations. You could be. We don't know. You were saying that the best kind of fiction you feel has some truth in it.
Thank you. You did very well.
I didn't smoke a lot of weed today.
Okay, and I didn't drink a lot today.
There we go.
So there we go. We came prepared. So I had, there was a love scene, a sex scene.
Ooh,
and
spicy.
I like writing them. I really do. And
I'm so happy there's that. I said, okay, we'll go. Go.
You didn't say shit.
No. I when I think of, this is me being like misogynistic or prejudicial or whatever. It's like when I think of
sexist.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the word.
There it is. Maybe I didn't
as a
want
writer.
to say it. Thanks, Squirrel One. I feel like I made the joke. I made the joke to him that I'm like, it's probably some vampiric, like vampire smut,
Sex
thing, yeah. Because women love smut.
And I write good smut. Actually, all my friends go, "You write the best sex scenes," and I go, "Yes, I know."
Let's go.
Yes, I know.
Let's go.
Because I do it well.
So, okay, go ahead.
So anyway, what the fuck was I saying? Crap.
Let me ask you something.
No, we
Okay.
have to find out where I was going.
Oh, Christ.
Because we does anybody remember?
Anyone in the class?
Anyone? Oh, me. No. Oh, so I did not have her have an orgasm because I thought she's a virgin, first time out of the gate. You just learning where all the parts are and who belongs to what and where they go and all that sort of stuff. Well, my agent called me up and he said, the editor wants to talk to you. I thought, okay. I wasn't scared. I still wasn't scared. I knew what she looked like. For one thing, she was about 5 foot nothing and wore sundresses, and I knew she had boxer shorts under those sundresses. But in any case, she called me up, and she was not happy with me because apparently Oscar was my agent, and he said, you need to put in, they have to have an orgasm. I was like, I'm sorry, that's just not truthful. And so he let it go and let her in her sundress and her boxer shorts take care of me. She called me up and she said, and we had this, back and forth about it. And finally she said, and of course she's the one with the money, so I really can't flip her off.
You gotta play ball a bit.
And she was a very good editor, so I shouldn't be that snotty, but I'm snotty about everybody. So she said, my secretary is going to call you, and I want you to give her an orgasm. And I said, and I had same thing.
Give her
I was
my
like,
number.
do I have to take her out to dinner first? I mean, what is it you're asking? She said, I want you to dictate an orgasm to her.
So, what a wild thing to have to try.
I know. So I had to write this scene, and it's like, oh God.
So when you say she didn't have the orgasm, how does the reader know? I guess because are you writing from her point of view?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you would obviously describe that.
Yeah. Right. And if you don't have it, you may have had a really good time because it was all snuggly and a naked skin. There's a lot of fun to be had short of an orgasm.
Sure.
But the editor, this was
interesting.
And so this woman calls me up and she goes, "Hi, I'm so and so from Ellen, and I need an orgasm." Don't we all, honey? So I had written all this thing, and she's working on an old, what sounded like an Olympia typewriter, which was the upright.
You could hear it and everything.
Yeah, and it's going clacketa, 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 and so I'm. If somebody's typing what you're dictating, you're slowing down. So, and then he put his hand, blah, 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 clacketa, clacketa, clacketa. And this thing took, 30 minutes. And it was only like, a paragraph this long.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, I can't wait to tell this story to people. Nobody's going to believe this.
She was like, I did not sign up for this job.
Yeah, I did. No, I live an interesting life. That's what I've done.
Yeah.
So
your very first one wasn't. There was no sex scenes in your 12-year-old one.
No, but there was some kinky shit. But
really?
I didn't Yeah. I was. Yeah.
And you didn't recognize it, so it was just like psychologically, maybe some of the.
Yeah, I think there were definite notes in there.
So you did write that though? The Gone with the Wind fan fiction.
No, it wasn't Gone with the Wind fan fiction. It was Wagon Train fan fiction.
Oh, my bad. Right.
But the Gone with the Wind.
When she had said it is when it planted the seed.
Right.
Got
and
it.
my mother said, "Go write your own ending, and get the fuck away from me."
And
no, she never cussed. My parents never cussed, which is why I've had to make up for them all these years. So, no.
So the Wagon Train one, was that when you were young as well?
That was when I was 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was watching it about that age, and I fell in love with. Oh, actually, there was an actor. He's still alive, barely, and Robert Fuller, and he played a doctor in some emergency. That was the. I liked him better as a cowboy.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
Can I tell you one of my favorite things?
Of course.
It's not kinky, but
then no.
Oh, well, fine. Skip it then.
I'm just kidding.
No, but he had gloves. He wore gloves. Right? Someone that rode a horse.
Oh, right, sturdy leather gloves.
That always had these kind of cuffs that were open. And there was this scene where he takes the woman's face, and you could see his wrists. And I'm looking at those wrists, and I'm salivating.
Really?
And he kisses her, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah.
That's so interesting that you took note of the wrists.
Oh, yeah. No,
wow.
My favorite man parts are the neck, the throat.
And the hands?
I've
heard there's like a word for people who are attracted to hands.
Yeah, but they have to
Queerophile
be.
or something.
They have to be what?
Mike, can you look this up for me just so I don't sound crazy? I said queerophile.
That won't save him, will it?
Nothing you can look up could help. I said queerophile. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Quir. People who are attracted to hands.
I got Kyra, like it's chirophilia?
Chiro. Sorry, I said queero.
Cheiro, philia. Yeah, it's a sexual fetish for hands.
And how do you spell it again?
I wouldn't call it a fetish, what I have, because I like the forearms, like a man in a white dress shirt with his cuffs rolled up.
Oh, sure, that's
okay.
fair.
Just below. Oh, snort.
And the neck, and you were pointing at the
And
neck
the
before.
throat.
The throat. Interesting.
Yeah. And
That is so interesting. I'm always
grain-
intrigued by people who find non-genital body parts like sexual.
I don't think genital body parts are particularly sexual. They're functional, and
Right.
we need them.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like it's like Pavlovian why I think they're sexy, you know? Because they're associated
Are there
with
bells
pleasure.
involved?
They're just associated with pleasure in my mind. So when I see them, I'm like, oh, that's sexy because I know that there's pleasure involved.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah,
Because
that's
I don't.
my comment.
Well,
Interesting.
meaning that, like, yes, when I see a woman's, sexual organs or genitals or whatever the thing is, if I never had known what a woman was, and you gave me a plate and there were woman's genitals on it,
He's got some very specific fantasies.
I wouldn't eat that plate. You know, nothing. The plate would do nothing for me. I would say, "Oh, where did you catch that? You got to get rid of it or whatever."
Jesus.
But because
How many days has this been here?
because I know what they're associated with, I do think they're sexy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if everything I said made
Like-
sense, but you get the gist.
Well,
don't know.
I'm still worrying about the plate. How long has this been out?
I don't know why it was a plate, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I prefer your weirdness to anybody else's right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's not the worst. There's something endearing about it. That's what I tell myself. Don't ruin that. Don't ruin that. If you disagree,
no, I won't ruin that. I won't take that
Okay.
away from him.
Okay.
Should I? No, I
it's
shouldn't.
mine. Don't touch it.
Yeah, right. Leave my sexual fantasies.
It's my
alone.
lie. Do not touch it.
So it's your lie.
Yeah.
Oh wow, we've gotten a confession and a kink.
Mhm. You said you were a liar too already on this podcast.
I said what?
You said that you were a liar.
Or she was a liar.
She did say you were.
That was when she was 12, though. I
Yeah.
think.
No, when she was 8.
Fiction.
No. When you were touching your brother's stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you said touching, I wasn't sure where it was going. When you were touching,
Thought I was
what?
bring
What
out a
was-
plate again.
So anyway, I have no idea where I was. It doesn't matter. We passed that.
Well, I was curious. So when you were 12, you wrote the fan fiction for Wagon Train, and you
Right.
don't do anything with that. That's for like you just.
Right, my mother threw it away.
Did she read it? Did she give you the?
No. But I have a lot of writers in my family. Loads
Oh,
of-
really?
Yeah, loads of published writers and going back generations.
Wow.
So genetically, I guess I'm.
And your mom was a painter.
She was a painter. She also fancied herself as a writer. But after she died, my dad brought me a big box of her stuff that she had written, and I refused to read it until I'd finished my first book because I didn't
Want to be
even want, in my mind, to be influenced
Right.
by. And so after I finished it and sold it, and it was getting published, I dug out the box and thought, all right, let's see what Mom wrote. Blah. Blah. Really bad stuff. But my dad, I found in that same box, I found some stuff that my dad had written.
really.
Yeah, in longhand on a yellow legal pad, and he had written. It was a very very short story about.
Suicide note.
No. It was my dad was funny. My dad was really funny, and he'd written a story about Finfinger. This was the people's name. The detective, the victim, and the suspect were all named Finfinger. Which
All of them?
all of them.
What even? What? I don't even understand.
Well, I didn't either, but as I could keep them apart just reading them. He did a good
in
job.
context.
Yeah, and it was just like I was
Just
rolling.
the why.
Well,
It's
and I never talked to my dad about it.
Oh,
but-
it was comedic intentionally.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
right,
Oh yeah.
sorry,
First
I
of all,
forgot the funny-
Finfinger. I mean, seriously, three murder, victim, and police detective, all named Finfinger.
Yeah.
And there was no mention of are we related? No, none of that. So he could have been drunk. I don't know.
He was the better writer out of your mom? Hint, hint?
Well, judging by Finfinger, yeah, much more entertaining. And that's all I've ever wanted to be. Oh, my maiden name is Cochran, and everybody in my father's side all looked up genetics. You know, they were all combing over
23andMe and all that.
Well,
Ancestry.com.
no, that's the modern version, but they were combing through all the records and the graveyards and looking up dates and people and everything. And my history on my father's side goes all the way back to Jamie Stewart. And the first Cochrane was, and this is so much like my family, because he showed up and there were a lot of hangers-on that were courting favor with the king. And Cochrane shows up, the first one of record, and he shows up and he can dance and he can sing and he can tell jokes and he can do this. And that's my dad all over again. And the hangers-on that were getting shoved aside, they didn't care much for that. So one dark night, they dragged him out and hanged him. And I just thought, yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then my brother had one brown eye and one green eye, as did a horse thief way back. So, you know, I come from storied and colorful people. That's
Interesting. The different colored eyes I've only seen on like dogs.
People.
Not to call your brother a dog.
People, but it's only been blue-brown. I've never seen
Okay,
green.
I've seen the one where they're like
them.
two different colors. That's always really pretty to me, you know?
Yeah.
Where
I
the
have
outside-
hazel eyes. They're two different colors.
They'll
Both,
change
but
from
they're
like
both,
green
they
to brown.
Match. They match.
Yeah.
Sort of, mostly. So, yeah, so a lot of that in the family. So I wrote the second book, which was more of a comedic historical romance. I had fun with that.
Now,
one.
was that the first one that wasn't based on something else? Like, I'm curious when you like because
no, my very first book, my real book. I mean, the one I
right.
sold was not based on anything other than whatever.
Right, but when you started, it was fan fiction.
When I started as a kid,
yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. I was just curious when you because it seems to me like I guess it's pretty similar. It seems easier to build on a world that already exists, right?
Well, and as a kid, that was easy.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
There were some war shows that I liked because that's how I got out my
Oh,
hostilities.
yeah.
So I wrote, and there were girls on the school bus, and I would get on the bus, and I would have written a new chapter based on the program that a lot of us had watched. And so I'd read that.
And they would be into it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. They're like waiting for your episode to come out.
Right, exactly. So that was what I liked doing. And then I just decided that I would take it seriously. My great aunt, who was very well known, we think she was a spy, but she was a writer and a teacher at Tulane and blah, blah, blah. And we were a strange family. We really were.
I believe it.
Okay, good. And I don't have to have an affidavit
you don't have to prove it.
This is okay. So my mother had asked me to help her drag the furniture out, and she doused it with gasoline and then set it on fire because she wanted new furniture, and Dad didn't want to go for it. So then my dad said, okay, well, we'll do without furniture. So we only lived in our bedroom, and we had a TV that rolled back
I love
and
the
forth.
mutual pettiness there.
Oh, yeah.
I want to burn the furniture. He's like, we don't need furniture then.
That's exactly the way it went down.
That's great.
There was a lawn chair that was brought in for Christmas.
It was the holidays after all.
Right. And it was just getting snowed on outside. So anyway, we never had anybody in our house. That was a rule. But his family every once in a while dared to show up. And his aunt, who was a great character, we all loved her, but she's the one we think was a spy. And she was like the Forrest Gump of her own things because she met everybody. When
she was everywhere at every time.
Yeah, Eisenhower and MacArthur and the Nuremberg trials and all this. And she was over there during that time.
Yeah, sure.
So we're like, yes, Aunt Evelyn was definitely a spy.
She's up to something.
Yeah, she was a Jeep driver, and she went all over and opened up new hospitals, for the soldiers and everything. But so she showed up, and we didn't, Mom and Dad are in their bedroom, and I was told I was rude, but I'm 13 at this point. But I'd just gotten furniture. I'd gotten furniture. Nobody else could have any furniture. And so I'm in the room, and I'm writing, and there was a knock on the door. And I went and opened the door a crack. And it's Aunt Evelyn, my great Aunt Evelyn. And she goes, hi. I'm like, this. And I said, What do you want? I had no social graces, and nobody cared. And she said, "Can I come in?" And I thought, "Gee." So all right. So then I sat back down at my desk, and I covered my paper because you don't want to be copied, And she was a writer as well. And so I go back, and she sat down on the bed, and she didn't say anything. So I thought, okay, good. I can go back to what I was doing. So rude. She says, "So what are you doing?" I look at her. I said, I'm writing a story. And she said, "Oh, I write stories." I was like, "Really?" We were best buds after that. I never saw her again. We wrote some letters, I think. And then when she died, a big truck showed up, and they unloaded a desk, a typewriter, a desk and a chair, a typewriter, and all of her originals from her stories.
Wow.
And everybody else got candlesticks and jewelry shit, and it was like, she remembered.
That's beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I dedicated my first book, the one that they needed the orgasm for, and they got.
And just for the record, if anyone's paying attention, they got it.
They got it, and but they lost my photo for the book, and they lost the dedication somewhere in the bowels.
How the hell?
And this was a legitimate big time. It was a Hearst, Avon Books owned by Hearst. This was no fly by night,
right?
So they lost it. But this book, this is my third one. I made sure, because I did the self-publishing, which is god awful.
I bet
it was horrible. It really was.
So this book that you just wrote, or you've been writing for a long time, you said
30 years, and I rewrote it every year for 30 years.
Jesus.
I stick to things. Nobody makes me quit. Never, ever. I'm a dog. So, I finished it because every time I would turn around, I would have grown, and she needed to grow.
Sure.
Because I couldn't leave her as that immature twat. So.
Interesting, right? And then you're rereading it with your new lens.
Right, exactly.
And
going, that's a stupid response to that. And I had some editors interested in it. It kept winning prizes off of the first 3 chapters, and that kept me going. It was good enough I kept doing.
What do you mean by that, though? Did you only release 3 chapters at one point?
No, to enter contests, that's usually the submission.
The first 3?
Yeah, the first 3 chapters and a synopsis.
Interesting.
So I got some editors that would say, "Send me the rest of it," and I go, "It really isn't the rest of it just yet." And but then so I'd tell them, and they were like, "Okay, well, let me think about this and read. What have you got, and where are you going with it? I remember one of the ones that I thought was really going to bite on it. I'm glad they didn't, because now I got to finish it the way I wanted to finish it. And she said, "She's really mean, your main character. She's downright nasty." And I was like, Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind was nasty too, and nobody held that against her.
Yeah.
She got a whole movie and a book and everything else. So, over the time, and my stepdaughter, she said the same thing. She said, "Why do they fight all the time?" And I thought, well, because she's mad. Why else?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? But when I looked back on one of my take 28, I guess,
Sure.
I said, you're right. So
Softened
I rewrote
her
it
a bit?
again. Right. I had another career, but that was what I was doing in between.
Right.
And I taught writing, and and I liked doing that, because every class I had, they turned into a writing group. And that, to me, they caught fire. You could see it, because they all started out
Caught fire is interesting.
Yeah, and they were all they were like, and so when they all got together and started talking with each other and encouraging each other,
collaborating, collaborating.
Yeah, and it was just, I was like, oh, my baby's born.
Yeah, that's all you could want, right?
Yeah.
As an instructor of anything.
So that's my writing story.
What's the name of the book?
Dealer's Choice by Mayo Lucas. And the reason I add that, although that would be a given, except that there's a lot of, you can't copyright titles.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of Dealer's Choices suddenly on the market. And it's in Barnes & Noble, and it's in Amazon and Kindle, and it's paperback, and there's thrift books. There's a whole bunch of places. Oh, want to hear some writing scams?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They're just recent. They're brand new. I get a call the other night, and this woman says, we're from such and such and so. I don't know what they are. And I'm on the West Coast, and I tend to get sound bites and then say, let me think about that and I'll call you back. So there's a couple of them because I can only absorb so much, and I want to frame questions and things. So I talked to this woman a couple times. Turns out, bottom line, they wanted to sell me 100 bookmarks with the cover of my book on the bookmark with the QR code for $300. And I had to laugh. And I said, Zazzle will sell me 100 for $29.99. Same, I don't know about the QR code, but
Yeah.
Hey, babe, no thanks. So I said, do you have any other selling points? Never heard from her again. Big surprise. Last night, was it last night or the night before, I get a call that he was the front runner for, and this is important because it turns out this is a big scam. God. It's a made-up actor's name, and he's a part-time actor, but he also has Spotlight TV. That's real.
Okay.
I mean, it's real as far as this scam goes. And we'd like to interview you. Like, where are you calling from? Oh, we're in California. Thinking, where are these people even finding out about my book? I mean, I know social media, but
Sure.
I don't think it's got that kind of reach. So I'm listening to it. We want to do a 15-minute TV interview with you about your book. And I'm old, so I'm not easily, reeled in. And I said, so how much do I have to pay for the privilege of this? And there was like I wasn't supposed to ask that question.
Sure,
right then.
yeah. It wasn't. They had their script. They were going to hit you with it in a few minutes.
Right. When they got me all like, oh, really? You want to interview me? And unlike you, I was excited when you called. Because you'd been vetted, so I knew you were a real person.
I did exist in
That's
real
right,
life.
you existed. And I came by, I did a dry run, so I knew where you lived, because I knew it'd be coming in the dark.
Okay, yeah, smart.
I am smart.
You are.
I am. So, so I said, how much? And he said, well, we would need something to defray the costs.
Defray?
Defray the costs. I said, how much defray? Is that French? No. And he said, well, it comes to about $300 for this and $300 for that. It was about $1,000. And I said, really?
And I only charge you $500 to come here.
Well, really?
This
Yes.
is a
Send
steal.
me your bill. Send me your
It's
bill.
a steal.
So it was, and I said, wow, this, whatever his name is, it really was such a white bread made up actor's name, famous actor's name.
Yeah.
That it was unbelievable. And I said, well, wow, if you got 4 of me, 4 15-minute segments in an hour, that's like, oh my, that's like $4,000, or no, yeah, it is $4,000. I don't do math. I'm right. Words is my life. So, yeah.
Well, we got to pay the production staff, and then, we got to provide them with
and
lunch if they're here for more than 6 hours because they're part of the union. It'd be a whole fucking thing.
Yeah. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll think about that. And I've got your number and your name.
Yeah.
So I'll call you back.
The
And then I
schemes
started looking it up online. Oh, big scam city.
Yeah.
And
Reddit will tell you quick.
Yeah. So that's my life. Give people orgasms over the phone. Listen to scams.
And that'll cost you $1,000. We'll put the number in the description. You could have a side hustle there, probably.
So when you're writing, do you know the story before you start writing, or do you kind of like have an
interesting
idea?
Question. Thank you.
I told him to say it before we started. I said, "Mike, you hit there."
Let me see the notes, the show notes. No, I tend to know how it ends, but not how you get there.
Okay.
Interesting.
And
That's cool.
there's certain graphs. I learned this from a girlfriend's mother who was a writing teacher at Towson, and she welcomed me into her dining room. I love this woman. She's still alive, thank God. And she taught me how to graph the plots of my novels, because I would write like the first book. There's 2 guys fighting with their ornamental swords over the fireplace, and they grab them down and they're in a fight. And I'm like, who the hell are you? I thought I was going crazy. I really did. I thought, do I need to sign up for therapy, or is this something good, maybe. And it kept me awake. And finally I got up and I started writing it. And the minute I wrote it, it left me alone. But then the next night, something else, like the scene before. So it was writing itself backwards. And I was like, I don't know who you are, much less why you're doing what you're doing. So
because it's coming to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's a case made for, this woman isn't right, but so far they let me drive and vote, and
they haven't locked you away yet.
Not yet. And so I worked my way back, and then I went, okay, I'm going to have to come up with who these people are to get them there. Well, then I ended up with a book that was like this. The two halves didn't meet.
Right.
And so I went to this woman. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And she said, let's teach you how to graph a plot. It's like, really?
Right. I never even, yeah.
I didn't either. And so there's lots of ones. There's the V with a little step at the front and then a longer step at the back, but not too long. And then there's a W, and there's different graphs. And I thought, thank God, and I always said mine was like a double. There's supposed to be the clean up here is the crescendo and is the, I've lost my vocabulary. There's a technical thing that's called a technical thing.
Yeah, something with the, I just keep wanting to say plot or antagonist or protagonist. Those are the only things I know.
Okay.
I was going like crest or like whatever the top of the point was, but the peak.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like it's some type of
yeah.
I want to say crescendo, and that's music. So the literary version of crescendo.
There we go.
So, but I had this double camelback thing, and I got rid of it pretty much because of what Dot told me, and it was like, oh, cool. Now I know how to handle things, and you need to be in control. And I've never. The first book I was not in control. It was control of me. In control of me. Words. So I learned. It was a teach yourself how to write a book.
Right.
The second one was a lot of fun. That was much more popular. It was funny. And then...
Are they both historical romance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this one has got 1 foot in historical romance and 1 foot in women's fiction. Ask me what women's fiction is.
What the hell is women's fiction?
Women's fiction, and I had to look this up myself because I didn't know. It's told from a single point of view, which to me is so boring. I don't want to know, so I don't do just one point of view. You can't switch willy-nilly because then people say, too many occupant changes. I got a magazine, and I had no idea what that was. It was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured it out, but it took me a while. So, yeah, you learn the craft, and that's what I did. I've learned the craft, book by book, and now, I was so slow. And when I retired, I said, I'm gonna take a year and finish this book. And I was a little more than halfway through, maybe not quite. I said, I need a year. I finished it in 2 months.
Wow.
I was like, I've gotten better without doing a whole lot. And then you don't always have to do something over and over. Like you mature inside your head.
Right.
So that's my story.
I just don't get how you get organized. I get the graphs help, but still, like, just juggling multiple stories and then having them all come together, like, that's so hard, I feel like.
Well, I don't
That's
know
why
what
not
you
everyone
mean
can
by
do it.
multiple stories, because I do. I have 3 books going at one time ready and to launch, and then I'm going to republish. I have the rights back to the first 2, and then I'll republish those.
Nice.
And I don't know if I'll stick to self-publishing or not. I mean, obviously, republishing would be self-publishing, but it's a lot of work, and it takes the time away from writing. And that's what I love, because I'm not a big fan of reality.
Yeah.
I know you're shocked. I don't.
Reality's pretty subpar.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is, and it's out of your control, and I'm not happy about that. Things do not turn out the way I want.
Do you feel inspired every time you go to write, or are you disciplined to go write no matter what?
I am disciplined now to go write, and one of the things that I've learned, and I think everybody's different. I can't tell you, I can't give you good advice I can give you general advice, but I can't tell you how to write a book or how to write your book. But I found that if I got up in the morning And I went, it was a job. You go to work,
Yeah,
you take your
that's what
coffee,
I've
you
heard.
sit down. Nora Roberts always said the best writing advice I'd ever heard. And she said, because people say, well, how are you inspired? And she goes, no, it's the art of applying the seat of your pants to the seat of the chair. And I went, that's exactly what it is. But I would write 10, 15 hours a day, except when the cats are bugging me and they are taking their life in their hands. They just don't know it. But I have a door on my office now, and I go, get out, and they all run. And then they sit outside with their little cups, feed us. But I stop before I run to the end of what I want to do. And if I stop just short of finishing that thought, of finishing that scene, then the next morning it's already primed.
That's so smart.
Yeah, it works.
That's so clever, right? Because if you put a book note in it, in your head, then it's like then you have to come up with a new. That's very clever.
It took me a while. I wasn't always clever. I wasn't always smart.
That is clever. Is there an orgasm in this book, or do we not want to spoil that? Because if so, I'm going to read it.
Book, it's funny how
Dealer's
things
choice.
slow down in your head when you're hearing them, and you're going, "What is this going? Where is this going?" Yeah, no, they all have. Yeah, I can't.
I'm going to read Dealer's Choice for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
excited. I read. I mostly read nonfiction. Do you still read a lot?
I do, but not when I'm writing,
Mm.
because I don't want to be influenced by someone else's cadence or word choice.
Mm-hmm.
Or
whatever their
whatever their gig is. I'll read it later, and then I stuff myself with writing and read other people's, and I do read for other people, and they read for me. But
like
beta readers
for other. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Did you read Fourth Wing?
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right. This is
I
a
doubt
close...
you and I would have a similar reading list.
Have you ever read the Unabomber's Manifesto?
Well, yeah, kind of. We all did.
No, I'm kidding. Fourth Wing was the closest thing to smut that I've read in a while. I read 50 Shades of Grey back when that came out.
Oh, that is so poorly written.
I know, it was terrible.
Badly
It's
written.
terribly written. It's just the first mainstream smut that I remember.
Well, that's
crossing
true.
over even into the male audience. I read it to think like, what's all the fuss about?
Yeah, my girlfriend at work was reading it. She says, "You got to read this. You got to read this." Of course, I've learned that what she's got to read and what I got to read are two different things.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But it was like grammatical error.
Oh my gosh, it was like a child wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And
I
the
thought,
sentences were splotchy. I remember.
just take a crayon and write
Yeah.
I always said if I got a head injury, my next book would be written in crayon. So yeah.
Yeah, Fourth Wing was it's newer. It's fantasy fiction. Yeah, it's a girl maybe 15 or 16, and she has like powers, and they're dragon riders, and there's
Dragon Riders of Pern was one of my favorite series, but that's old stuff.
Yeah,
See,
this
I
is
don't
a
get
new
a chance
trilogy.
to read. Well, and that sounds like there's a lot of fantasy, and I wonder about a society. Everything in drama, not everything, as I overstate everything. Hyperbole.
It's
that's
more
my-
fun that way to be
It is.
hyperbolic.
I'm the queen of hyperbole, but there's so much fantasy and there's so much power. Everybody's got powers and everybody's got. And I thought, what is that saying about us as a society? And here's just my opinion. I think we are feeling so overwhelmed by life nowadays, and we have no power.
Powerless.
We are powerless to change anything. We can see what's wrong, but we don't have the wherewithal
That's
to
heavy.
change it.
I mean, yeah.
And so it leaks in. We've got to have that sense of control and power. So we put it in our movies. We put it in our programs. We put it in our fiction.
That's interesting. I think that's actually a really salient point. Is that the word?
Salient, yeah.
That could be a word, salient.
Could it be a word?
It could be a word used there.
Hey, I make up words all the time, and they are some of the best ones.
I think that's a really salient point. Like, it's easy to dismiss something as fiction because it has the title fiction. But I think that, it has to speak to,
Fiction is not worthless. Fiction is both a mirror and a goal. It gives you something to strive for, but it also is a mirror of what you want, what you need.
Yeah, more so than nonfiction, right? Because it's because then you can. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's big. Well, goes back to the Greeks and all the catharsis of their theater. I mean, they wanted to evoke all the emotions and all the yeah, all the mechanics. So, fiction has a big role, and good fiction. Bad fiction, you throw away and you don't think about it again. The best compliment I had was I hired a top-notch editor that had retired from two of the big houses, Simon and Schuster and something else, and she gave me the nicest compliment. She said she was just doing pre-editing of a book that is about a. It's about a. You ask about sex. It's about a 1880s hooker.
Wait, harlot? What do you call that, a harlot back then?
A
Still
woman of ill repute. No, you call her all
repute.
sorts of things.
There are plenty of names.
Yeah, she.
1880s?
Yeah, 1880s.
Well, you know what the first thing I think of?
No.
The smell.
But if you realize that everybody smells,
It becomes right. I've heard that too. Yeah, you don't notice it.
You don't notice it when everybody smells.
It's like when
you're
someone
fine.
lives in a stinky house, they don't know because they're in it.
Yeah, but boy, when they go outside, everybody else knows it. There was a guy I
Facts.
worked with, and he didn't smell offensive in the sense of an offensive smell, but he smelled like pancakes, strongly of pancakes.
That is so specific.
That's
And it
funny.
was like, God damn it, change your
That's
shirt
weird.
after you make breakfast. But no, anyway. What were we talking about?
Sex.
I'm surprised I lost track. Sex to pancakes. Who knew? What were we saying about it?
Yeah, what was it about
You're
sex?
talking about
Damn it.
your new book, and it was about, and then that's kind of where I sort of petered out.
You fell down on
It
the
was
job,
it was-
didn't you, Jim?
It was, yeah, it really did.
Yeah, we fucked it.
Well, in any case, the editor. And she gave,
yes,
me,
editor
she
you
gave me a
hired.
compliment that I really appreciated, and I paid her big bucks. But that
For
I
the
didn't say-
compliment?
no, that's what ultimately, yeah. But she said, these characters will live in my head for a long time. And she said, I hope to God you are going to finish this. I was like, oh, honey, I don't ever give up. It may take 30 years. No, it won't take 30 years again, ever. But yeah, so I've got that and a couple of others. But I think I will pay for good time editing because it's heads and tails above what you can get anywhere else.
Right.
And beta reading
It's still important. Has
it
its
is.
place.
It is
Yeah.
because that's your audience basically. So, yeah.
Wow. Dealer's choice. I'm excited to read it.
A lot of men have read it, and you would think that romance would turn no. And I had a friend of mine, not that close, but he called me up this weekend, and he said, I could tell the Mayo's sense of humor. And I said, really? I didn't think this was a particularly funny book. And he goes, no, there's humor throughout the whole thing.
It just comes through, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he said, there was one where you said, the furniture looked like it had fallen off of a wagon. And he said, and then you followed it up with a one-word sentence. And I knew what he was getting ready to say. He said, repeatedly. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah. That was just a little bit of me.
So repeatedly is a nice touch there.
Yeah, so I love what I do. I love to write. And I think it's good for other people, to write if they want to.
Yeah.
Any creative outlet, I would argue. I mean, writing is great. I think everyone should have a hobby of some kind. Spend your
We
time
are
doing something.
creators as a species, and I think we forget that. And
Absolutely,
you're right.
we do.
Whether it's drawing or painting or
Anything other than consuming.
well, I'm a consumer.
We all are.
I
Yeah.
love my stuff, but I make a lot of my stuff.
Well, that's the thing. I think that I also I'm not speaking from a pedestal. I'm a consumer and create basically nothing. I think that it's like there's like a to achieve some type of like internal homeostasis. I do believe that we should be creating as well as consuming because we have to consume to live. But
I think the problem is people think that like you're born with it. People probably like would you say that you were born with your writing or that you worked at it and you honed it? Like that's why a lot of people I feel like don't want to play music. They're like, "Oh, I'm not musical." Like, dude, that's cuz you never picked up a guitar and tried it. Like
right.
It's not just in you. Like you it can be, but what do you think about that?
Well, I see too many child prodigies in the music world
Sure.
that make me go, oh my God. And then I think, what would it be like to be that parent of that person having to feed that all the time? I mean, the instruments and the lessons and you could see behind the kid's head all the music things, the library, and I'm thinking, that's an expensive kid to
100%.
have. But at the same time, you could not nurture that. I believe that there is innate creativity, that it's just a matter of what touches it, what brings it to life. And I'm a maker of all sorts of different things. In fact, it's always hard to narrow it down to just writing. So I have seasons, I'll do this and then I'll go make my jewelry and design my jewelry. And then I'll go paint and then I'll go back to writing. If I have a dead zone in the writing, it's time to make something. I need something physical.
Yeah. That's nice that you have multiple outlets,
I have 2 studios in my house.
Wow.
So and my son goes, and my daughter-in-law is the one that goes, I have to clean that stuff out when you die. And I go, nah.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. What are we going to do that with? She asks me that occasionally. Well, what are we going to do with that when you die? Not my problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She doesn't mean it meanly, but she's a very practical person. So.
Yeah. Does your family live around here? Do you guys have Thanksgiving together?
No.
Just you and the cats?
No. I go to my husband died a couple years ago, and his best friend and his wife none of them have any children, and I do. But my grandson, my youngest grandson, last year made a point of saying, "Grammy-o, I'm a cool Grammy-o. I'm Grammy-o."
You're pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool.
I was told that you were cool by our mutual friend Destiny.
Oh, yeah, I love Destiny.
Yeah.
Anybody that's got the guts to tattoo bows up and down both legs, that's my girl.
Yeah.
But I don't have that kind of commitment. I need to change my art out a lot. I couldn't have it on my body. I would be constantly scrubbing at it.
You can get them removed these days. I think you should get one.
You what?
I think you should get one.
Removed is what he
A
was
real one?
Yeah,
no,
one on the face maybe, something like this.
No.
Yeah,
No.
Something to think about. Maybe a teardrop or something. Mayo Lucas on the back of the book. Just like a teardrop tattoo.
No, but I'd get a rub on stuff in heartbeat.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I like to costume. I love to dress up because there's a lot of people wearing my clothes, and every once in a while I gotta let them out, and just don't get arrested, don't hurt people.
So that's another outlet, really, probably, to dress up and.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My husband was the same way. I liked him in a kilt. So, but my husband, his best friend, that's where I go for Thanksgiving. And I went back this year. But my youngest grandson said, "Grammy-o, will you come to Thanksgiving this year?" And I said, "Of course I will, dear." And I meant it, and I did go. And, I lived. Everybody lived. There was no fighting. There was no anything. But I don't relax. So
Your system?
Yeah.
Or you mean ever?
No,
in that scenario.
Yeah, in that scenario.
Right.
Yeah. But I love my grandchildren, and they would, no matter what they asked me, I would, yes, I'll do that. And not even with, yes, I'll do it. I would, yes, I will. You bet.
You think if I don't have kids, I'm wasting my life?
No, not at all.
Well, not going to have them. You heard it here. Thank you. You helped me
I
make
do
that
not
decision.
think that kids are an imperative. They just aren't. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with kids. They're great.
The sticky fingers are kind of a pain in the ass.
There's a lot about children that you have to. I don't like sticky.
Same. It's something about the.
I don't like sticky, man. Listen, I had my. Want to hear one of my? It's not even a trauma, but I never liked. My mother would stick my finger in the icing on a cake. It was like, ugh. And then she decided it would be better if I had paint, so she got finger paint. We were in Texas. It was a Tuesday. I remember it distinctly. And so I was doing finger painting like this, and without any preamble at all, this woman walked up and squished my hand down, palm flat, into a pile of blue finger paint. Everything in me went, "Wah!"
The fact that you remember that so vividly, I can tell you that, I understand people think of trauma as like going to war and PTSD, but that is a trauma. And it's like, that's so funny you remember that.
Oh, yes, I did. No, I remember. Now, I can't remember Tuesday. but anything,
Tuesday, 1989.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm good with that. Actually, I would love to be what is it? The something, the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Do you remember
never
that?
saw it.
Yeah, I thought that
Jim
was a
Carrey.
great idea. But I knew if you could get rid of your bad memories, wouldn't you then turn around and go, there's a void in my head and I know something happened. And then wouldn't you dig at it till you remembered it again? I would.
Yes, and
Yes.
I do believe that if I got rid of all my bad memories, my personality as a whole would change.
Or you'd wonder why
Yeah.
you were killing squirrels in the basement.
I would wonder why I'm no longer. Yeah.
Why am I
On that
killing
note,
you?
Squirrel 1 to Squirrel 2, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. We turned the heat up. We got it nice and cozy in here.
Well, I wouldn't quite go that
Nah,
far.
you're right. We probably wouldn't call it
My
that.
feet
but-
are still frozen,
Mine
but I
too.
get to go in the heated car.
And honestly, you got that dog in you. Like you said, you're a dog. You didn't complain once about it. I'm
Oh, I
over here.
won't.
In my head, I'm
In
like,
my
I'm
head, I'm
cold.
cold. And I
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's why the interview's over.
Sit solid as a rock over there. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
no, you're
No,
good.
don't
No,
be. No,
Thanks
we're
for
we're
having
sorry.
We
We
are
are sorry. Yeah.
It's
Well,
been
thanks for hanging with me.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. And,
If this doesn't work, I'll kill myself.
Damn.